Welcome to Making It with Terry Wollman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Wollman.
Welcome to Making It. I'm your host, Terry Wollman. This show is about creating a successful life and what that means to my guests today, founding members of Tower of Power, Emilio Castillo, Doc Kupka, and David Garibaldi. I'd like to share my intention that inspires this podcast. Time passes quickly, and I've learned that we should do what's in our hearts and do it well without apologies or excuses. I encourage you to create your life and art in your own unique way and express your artistry with joy and abandon. Be willing to work uncompromisingly for what you believe in. Success will have a better chance of finding you when you live your life with integrity, focus, and passion. Be selfish with your discipline and selfless in your performance. And don't forget to have fun along the way. Let me tell you about our guest. Tower's window-rattling grooves and raucous party spirit has been a balm for the soul throughout the half-century existence. But the release of 50 years of funk and soul live at the Fox Theater couldn't arrive at a better time. For coming up on 55 years later this year, Tower Power has delivered the best in funk and soul music. East Bay Grease defined their sound, and Bump City, their 1972 debut album on Warner Brothers, was a hit on both the Billboard 200 and the R&B albums chart, and netted them the hits You're Still a Young Man and Down to the Nightclub. The 70s were a boom period with radio classics like So Very Hard to Go and What Is Hip, and this band has continued to tour and record ever since. In 2018, they returned to Oakland to celebrate their landmark 50th anniversary. The future of Tower Power is set out to be vigorous and dynamic, and will prove to be just that for fans around the world. Starve for the band's groove just the way Tower Power likes it. My guests today, founding members of Tower Power, are Emilio Castillo, Doc Kupka, and David Garibaldi. Gentlemen, welcome to Making It.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
My pleasure. It's great to see you all. We all have we have some history, having recorded together many, many years ago, and it's kind of, you've been a big part of my life, musically as well, of course, a huge influence, and inspired me to become a horn arranger, actually, which I don't know if I ever got to tell you guys. So thank you for inspiring me on that. I want to thank all of you for being here, of course, and begin our conversation with a quote from your bandmate and friend, Francis Rocco Prestia. This life is such an amazing process. I've been blessed on so many levels. I can't count them all. He was quite a guy, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
One of a kind.
Yeah. And I know that you still, even on your website, give tribute to him because he's such an integral part of the sound of your band, the feel, and the friendships that you guys have had for so many years. And it's one of the things that I want to focus on today. It's so hard to keep a band together, and the fact that you're coming on 55 years of making music together and friendship, like really sharing your lives together. It must just be wonderful. I know it's not without challenges, but you guys are really a family, wouldn't you say?
Most definitely.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
I've heard you all say that the band's love of the stage is the same today as it was back in 1968. I want to share personal quotes from each of you and have you elaborate for a moment. Starting with Emilio. When Tower Power starts to groove, and I mean really starts to click, and we enter what I call the Oakland zone, that's when we're really in the pocket, when our fans jump out of their seats and give us back that same high energy that we're putting out. It's almost a transcendental experience. I know that I'm blessed by the love and respect we get from our fans and fellow musicians. It's a humbling experience and fills me with tremendous amount of gratitude. You still feel that way?
Absolutely. Tower Power is my life.
Yeah.
I have other things in my life. I have a wife. I have a spiritual life. I have other things in my life. But Tower Power for 55 years has been my life. It's my baby. It's like a child of mine, you know, and I love it. And you're right. It's a family, and we we love each other like family. We argue like family. We help each other like family. Everything we do is under the guise of Tower of Power. That's how it works, and everybody knows that. And if for some reason there's a lapse and somebody decides, oh, I need to do this, and we just all sort of gently remind them, remember, this is the first call around here, and if you're not down with that, then it's time for us to find someone else,
Mm-hmm.
But everybody understands that right from the gate, and more so as we go.
Well, I would imagine it becomes more precious with each year as you go, just because of the deep history that you all share.
No question about that. I'm not sure. Somebody's making a lot of noise over there.
It's probably me because I'm outside.
Oh, maybe mute until you talk.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Thanks, David.
Consider me muted.
I lost my place. What were you saying?
Just talking about how with each year, the gratitude deepens, essentially.
Oh, yeah, no question about it. I mean, people come up to me all the time, and I'm sure the same with these other two guys here. They come up, we can't believe it. We can't believe you guys are together this long. And I'm like, you can't believe it. We can't believe it. I mean, it's amazing to us,
Mm-hmm.
and it becomes more precious every year that goes by,
Yeah.
More valuable.
Mm-hmm. Doc, I want to share a quote of yours and then have you respond. You've said, love is patient and kind. That's my philosophy. Making things better for you. If you've been to our show, that gives me a joyous feeling. Having a vibrant career that meets my creative and artistic needs also brings me joy. There have been so many highlights. Opening for Aretha and King Curtis, jamming with Bruce Springsteen and Huey, playing during the last days of the Fillmore West, when Prince said he lost his virginity to You're Still a Young Man. That was a big thrill. It's a great story.
Well, I'm just so grateful. 55 years. I mean, when we started, I didn't know what I was going to do next Saturday. And somehow we, got through that. We got through all the drug addiction and alcoholism stuff, and and we're able to play well enough that we keep a fan base, and record well enough that we can keep on making recordings, and it's a real blessing to do something that's fun as your work. It isn't always fun, 13-hour flights, and you get to the hotel and the reservations aren't there, or that kind of stuff. The logistical stuff can be rough, particularly now that we're older. But it's been such a blessing to be in this band and playing with these guys, and I'm so grateful for that.
It comes through in the playing and watching you guys on stage and watching videos and seeing you live over the years. But it's really interesting for me to talk about it with you, because to hear the foundation of what we're talking about, and David, I'm sure you will agree. I've got a quote of yours as well, but the words gratitude and joy are immersed in your conversations when you talk about the band, when you talk about music, when you talk about life. It's pretty wonderful. Well, David, let me share your quote right here. Here it is. One of the great things for me about Tower of Power is that we share a common approach to making music. We're the sum of our parts. That's our strength. We take the stage as 10 individuals, but there comes a time in the set when everyone locks into the moment. We're all in the same place and we become one person, one entity. We spent a lot of time searching in the 70s, striving to realize our goals as people and as musicians. And you learn that if you play enough music and work with enough people, if you experience enough life, you find out what's really important. I mean, let's face it, the story is still being written. This much I do know. The first 100 years are the toughest.
Uh,
You remember writing that?
Yeah, yeah. The this has just such been a terrific experience for me. This is my musical home. Everything that I am really musically, what I've accomplished is because of my drum chair, and my connection with Tower of Power. I love it. I love our work habits, our work ethic, the standards that we operate by. I love it. And it's helped me to take my art, to higher levels all the time. I really enjoy that. I like doing something together with people. I lived in Los Angeles for about 12 years, and that was the freelance life. And that was not for me. I couldn't deal with it. I liked the old school idea of being in a band and, seeing the people on stage with you that and you live with and understand, and they know everything about you, and you develop something together, and when you come to see Tower of Power, that's what you see. You see a group of people that really know how to work together, and I think that's how it should be. Music is a do-it-together kit. And these guys, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I mean, it's just been such a terrific and rewarding experience, and continues to be.
I'm glad to hear you say that as well, David. Thanks for sharing that. Here's a group question for you guys. Your music has been described, Tower Power's music, as soul music, but it's an original style of soul music, Emilio, in your words. What do you guys think are the ingredients that make Tower Power such a unique band?
Well, I think David is a big part of what makes our sound uniquely ours and uniquely soulful. And you can go right down the line with each guy, Rocco, without a doubt, and he couldn't even help himself. It just came out that way. But, it was a life-changing type of playing. And, if you look at the trumpet players and, the keyboard players and the guitar players, the approach we take musically is unique, and yet it's a soul band. We want to make soul music, but we don't want to be like, the other 800,000 soul bands out there. We want to be unique. We want to have our own signature, our own voice. And it's because of the musicians and how we approach the music and the way we approach each other. Because, Dave has said many times, a guy comes in the band and he knows the concept, right? But then we take him to Tower Power 101 for the next 2 weeks, and his knowing the concept is growing, and over the years it continues to grow. We all have this real clear picture of the Tower Power conceptual sound, and so I was out with my wife a few months back, and we were in this Italian restaurant. And she had been showing everybody this video with a song that we recorded called "Hanging with My Baby." And I remember she tells the owner, she knew the guy and she was introducing him to me. She goes, "Yeah, my husband's in a band." She goes, "Check this out." And she plays it. It's literally not 10 seconds into the recording. And he goes, "That sounds like Tower of Power." And she goes, "Wow, how did you know that?" And he says, "What, are you kidding me?" He said, "I grew up in Chicago, man. When I was 18, I heard Tower Power, and I could tell Tower Power anywhere, anytime." And that's as an artist, that's the goal, man.
Yeah,
It's your sound.
absolutely. You mentioned there have been other players who have moved in and out of your band. Always amazing talent. And I know that they're big chairs to fill, big shoes to fill. David, I know that Herman Matthews has played for, held your seat warm, at various points and loves doing it. But I would imagine that anybody who comes in, whether they're a new singer or new horn player or new drummer or bass player, it's guitar, keyboards, everything, it's a lot to step into, but like you said, Tower Power 101, for the first couple of weeks, it's boot camp, right? You really,
if I could step in here for just
Sure.
a second. Our music, we have a style of music that we play, and it is soul music. It's based on that. But then kind of what I think makes our music continue to get deeper is that everyone has so many varied musical interests. We have jazz heads, everybody loves classical music. We have, people like, the old school songwriting, the real, Sammy Kahn and all those people, people, Mimi and Doc. I mean, they were inspired by those things, and so I think that our music is beyond just being a soul band. That's what people call it. That's what we call ourselves. But our influences are so varied. What makes Tower Power kind of that is kind of the rich, mix of all the things that we like.
Yeah, absolutely. Doc, do you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, just him talking about the songwriting thing. As long as I can remember, I wanted to be a songwriter. And when we started, I approached it mostly from the musical side of things. And then I realized later that I actually had more talent writing lyrics than I did writing music. So, that was helpful to me. And all the different influences. An important part of our sound is the fact that David knows Latin rhythms real well. And consequently, the drums sound kind of like James Brown in that way. And I think that's been real important to our development. And him and Rocco, I mean, I can't think of two different kind of people. Rocco, total free spirit, and Dave, ex-Air Force, very regimented, very together. And it's like, but when they play together, it's like magic. And I'm grateful I was a part of it. I'm grateful that I was able to supply some good songs during my time here.
That's an understatement, because you're such an invaluable part of the writing process of the group. David, I read a quote of yours that, speaking about What Is Hip, that the three of you wrote, which I had such a blast recording my new version of it. And thanks for all the love that you guys, shared with that and the support on that. We all just, love doing our homage to your band and to your song. But David, you had said, regarding writing What Is Hip with Doc and Emilio, boy, that sure turned out okay, didn't it? That's your quote on that. But Doc, I mean, you're writing as such a, I want to make sure people know you're writing as such a strong part, along with the other guys in the band. And I wanted to ask you guys, take me back to 1968. So you began as a soul band called the Motowns. Emilio, it was you and Rocco, and your brother played drums, I believe. Doc, can you tell me the story about you coming in and just coming for the home audition?
Yeah. Anyway, I was a roadie, a drum roadie, as a matter of fact, for the band, the Loading Zone. And Emilio likes to say, but maybe I was the worst roadie in the history of the world. I think that's not true. I think I was the worst bus boy in the history of the world. But anyway, that being said, so the Motowns opened for the Loading Zone, and they were good, choreographed, played great tunes. The horn sounded great, and I mean, they were young guys that really could play, and and I was learning how to play the bari sax, so I said, perfect. They don't have a bari sax player, and let's see what we shall see. So I go to Emilio, and he had borrowed the Hammond organ to use, and afterwards I said, "You guys got a great band." He said, "Oh, thanks." And I said, "Only one thing wrong." He said, "Yeah, what's that?" "It's your horn section. It needs a little bottom. By the way, I play the I said Selmer, the Barry Sax. I have a Selmer with a low A keyword, Yamaha now. I want to make that very clear. You know, love Yamaha. But anyway, and just he gave me a tryout, which was I remember at the time Skip Mesquite, the tenor player, was shooting arrows at me. You know, he was not happy about a tryout. I guess they had, but anyway, I made it, and except for a few days off for bad behavior, it's been almost 55 years.
That sounds like a story there. Do you want to share that, or is that kind of personal?
What
The 2 days off for bad behavior?
Just during my drug addiction days,
Okay.
my behavior got to the point where, shall we say, I was suspended for a couple of days, and I made it back, but it was that drug addiction, it hit me hard, and alcoholism. So anyway, it was all in regards to that, and I haven't had a drink or a drug in over 30 years, and life's good.
It sure is. You've got a lot to be proud of. And, you guys have definitely gotten yourself through a lot of life together. Like you said, addiction challenges, certainly music challenges, because you're always pushing the bar. David, you were in an accident that fortunately you survived not that long ago, and everybody rallied for you. I'm so glad to see you doing well again. And, and your discipline's a big part of that, being an athlete and, just taking care of yourself. So,
I had a lot to live for,
Yes.
I have a great family, great friends. And, as soon as I was able to discover that I was getting better, my goal was to get right back here where I am right now. And it took a while. I mean, I'm still dealing with, as a matter of fact, today might be the anniversary of that day.
Of the accident?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We were playing at Yoshi's in Oakland.
Yeah.
And it was life-changing, to say the least. But, being with these guys, I remember I came back, I was having memory issues. We had that first we were rehearsing for the 50th. We were in Sacramento at Skip's Music. We had a week there. Skip gave us a place to rehearse. And the first day, Mimi was calling tunes. And I had all my charts and everything, because we're like a garage band that you read. So I had all my charts in front of me, and he's calling the tunes out. And I could not put them in order. And I'm going, what is happening here? And it just so frustrating. So he's calling them. I could not put them in order. So that week was like a super struggle to just get organized and try to memorize, which I couldn't do. And so I was talking to Roger and Mark about it. And I was really pretty nervous, about what could happen. And they said, don't worry about it, man. We love you. You're here. And I just started looking at it like as a project. It was tough to do. I mean, I had a book of charts that I carried with me in my backpack, because we rehearsed every show day. So we were doing our normal Tower Power stuff, our shows, but then we were also rehearsing for the 50th show. And we would do that each day. And we would, as we learned songs, we would kind of rotate them into the set, so we'd get used to playing them and that stuff. And so, it was a grueling deal. I mean, it was the hardest that I had ever worked, maybe at anything, certainly with Tower Power, and that's saying something, because
that's quite a statement.
We have a history of working hard, But by the time the 50th came around, I had pretty much everything memorized except for one tune. But I kept that folder of music with me for a long, long time, like as a safety blanket kind of thing, But all that being said, man, I'm just so thankful to be here with these guys. Amy and Doc, they're my brothers forever. lived so much life, made so much music together, and still continue to, you know. So it's kind of cool, you know.
It's more than kind of cool. It's extremely cool. I mean, watching you through the years, all of you, it's just been a joy. It has been a joy for me as a listener as well, just to see you just still like just putting your foot in it, everything that you do all of the time. And, to hear you talk about, the recovery that you went through physically from a really traumatic accident, that you're very blessed and fortunate to have survived. It could have gone many other ways. And, to experience the frustration of recovery. And like you said, memory issues, to not add to the equation, the additional stress from band members, your friends, your family, not making it more difficult for you, but making it easier for you. But that's,
well, we have humor. We have a lot of humor in our band. The thing that kind of I always enjoy people that like to say a lot of stupid shit. It just makes me laugh. I think that's such a big part of our daily thing. It's that craziness. And the kind of how we feel about each other. It shows up in kind of our performances. People have said to me, you guys look like you're having a good time up there. And it's true. We are. Yeah. We're enjoying each other. And in between songs, we're still crazy stuff is going on. And I just love all that. It's just the gigs are fun.
Mm-hmm.
So
you guys mentioned you mentioned that on show days you rehearse. Can you break it down for listeners, for friends and fans who what's a day in the life like for you guys when you're on the road, which is a lot, and also a day in the life when you're not, when you're home with your families, what do you do with the time? And certainly traveling has become a lot less glamorous. Steve, you were saying with age, of course, too, but even just in general, traveling's challenging for everybody these days. So what's a tour day like for you guys, schedule wise, and what's an off day like? Anybody?
I'll go. Well, the rehearsal that I mentioned, that was basically just for the 50th. We do a sound check every show day. Sometimes we rehearse something. We'll tweak songs and kind of change arrangements. Sometimes, little things. The music is kind of a fluid deal. Our music is always changing a little bit, and then over time, those songs, they become kind of performance pieces, which is kind of cool to showcase what the band does. And those times together, the sound checks, are really kind of, they're organized. Mimi runs the sound check, like nobody's business. I mean, it's very organized, and we know what's going to happen, and it's cool, disciplined, but still enjoyable. It's still fun. Days off, like I'm here at my gym. I'm here, working out right now, taking a break so that we could do this, and I'll go back and continue on, so I practice every day, work out every day, just enjoy life, hang with my family.
Yeah, you're dad as well.
I am.
Yeah.
So it's good, life is good, I have to say.
Steve, what about you? What's a day in the life like? Are you disciplined on the road? Do you rest?
Yeah, rest is a big part of it these days. I find that if we do more than 3 days straight, which is rare these days, it's really tiring. We can't do 2 shows a night anymore. We did up until a few years ago, but it's just we are an older band, and we have to take that into consideration. So I get a lot of rest, and just try to keep a positive mental attitude, because it's easy. We're neurotic people, artists are neurotic people, and so it's easy to get overly neurotic, and in my case, overly funky doctor. I gotta watch out for that. And anyway, at home, just I still have a pretty good songwriting career. There's people. That's one thing I like about living in Los Angeles. There's some real good songwriters here. And lately, I've been writing a lot of worship songs. And I guess at the tail end of my career, that's I guess what you do. You get a little closer to God, and I try to express my appreciation by writing those songs. So that's been a lot of fun for me. And just get my rest. And I just had heart surgery, so I'm recovering.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. Just fortunately, the saxophone is all there.
Yeah.
Usually I don't practice too much. I'm not a virtuoso player, but like I tell people, I rely on muscle memory. But with this, I have to play every day, and so that part's good. We'll see about how my endurance goes, and and all that stuff. But yeah, I'm healing up pretty good. So.
I would imagine that the amount of air that it takes for you to get a sound out of a baritone sax, a Yamaha baritone sax, is it's a lot. And you are a funky player too, so you're very rhythmic in your playing. But that's probably contributed, I imagine, to your recovery from your heart surgery. You've been just, breath work's so important, in exercise and being healthy too. So
yeah, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
So breathing, I used to smoke a lot, so there's definitely some lung damage, but I can breathe enough to if I don't have to hold those low notes too long, I'm okay.
Emilio, what's your tour schedule like, in your home life, like day in the life?
Get up really early, take some form of transportation, whether it's a car, a tour bus, a Sprinter van, go somewhere, check into a hotel, grab something to eat, or just got to unpack everything and get over to sound check. Sound check is, I always tell people, it's like chipping away at the sculpture, polishing the diamond. Because we play so much and for so long, sometimes we start doing things and it'll get different. And sometimes I'll say, well, like for instance, in Soul Vaccination, there's a part after the horn soli where it goes ba da da ba 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 soul vac, and I always thought that comes in too fast, So one day I tell them, let's just hold that chord longer, ba 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 bang, yeah. So so it makes a bigger thing in the third verse. Little stuff like that, and we're all contributing, ideas about that stuff. And as soon as something like that starts, believe me, there's a million ideas coming down the pike, And my job is to be the filter, give everybody a voice, okay, let's hear what your idea is and try it. And I also got to be the bad guy. So, that's not really working for everyone, but maybe we could take part of it, and eventually we get there. We know how to work those things out, And then, they always have a really nice dinner for us. Not always, but usually. And play the gig. The gig is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And sometimes more fun than others. We're also very jaded. We're used to playing really well. And so some nights we don't play as well as we think we should. We'll say, that wasn't a great gig. And inevitably, 3 or 4 people will come up to me and say, man, you guys killed it, And I'll look at Dave and go, yeah, we fooled him again. That's because we're just so jaded about what we do. I remember doing a lot of sessions and playing some other gigs with other bands, some very famous people, and I would come back and I'd tell Dave, I go, man, you know what, man, we're spoiled, man. We were doing this break and down to the nightclub. This guy was struggling so hard, man, for us. And I remember this guy told me, He said, no matter what we do, no matter how we mess it up, you guys stay right there on time. I go, yeah, that's from David Garibaldi telling me, count, mother. I mean, it's just what we do. And so we become accustomed to it,
Right.
and we take it for granted,
Mm-hmm.
But now these days, it's also really important to just get out of there, get back to the hotel, get as much sleep as you can, and head out to the next gig. For me, when I'm at home and also on the road, it's really important for me to get up early and do some sort of spiritual work. I study the word, and I read recovery literature, and I pray. And I do that every single morning, because I can't do life the way I want to do it unless I do that. And so, for some people, it's like the lobby calls 4 a.m. and 3:15, maybe they're getting up. But for me, I got to get up at 2. I need that extra hour. And that just, it helps me in the way I live my life. I want to live my life in a certain way. And I'm married. I've got 5 children and 2 grandchildren, and I love them. I was just up in the Bay Area visiting my oldest daughter and my grandkids. It was a lovely visit, and I'm in recovery, so pretty much all my friends are recovery people, which are really interesting people. And we hang out and we go out to dinner, and we enjoy life. I'm at a part of my life. I'm 72, and I'm all about enjoying my life.
All 3 of you are mentioning a strong spiritual practice, and also physically taking care of yourself, and having a strong family value as well. Did that always exist? Even when you guys were younger, has there always been a spiritual or physical? No. Okay.
It was not there. And I got sober in 1988. And Doc always tells people when he speaks, I'm glad Emilio is here tonight, because he made my life hell for the first year, the last year of my using. He got sober in 89. And when you get clean, one of the things that happens is you start to pray. It just happens.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much all recovering people pray, especially if they want quality recovery. And so we started to do that. And then I used to have a guy in the band. One guy was an atheist. One guy was a Muslim. One guy was a Christian. And there was me. And the 4 of us would have these intense spiritual conversations. And I loved it. We'd be on the bus. We'd start that conversation. Next thing you know, we're there. Man.
Right. You're in the next
3
city.
hours went by, and it was really healthy and great. And one day I'm walking out to the stage, and I see the Muslim and the Christian like this, and they're praying, and I was like, wow, and I prayed all the time, but we didn't pray together, And then the next night I saw them again, and they saw me, they go, and I went over there and we prayed, and then I think Brent Carter, he was the Christian guy at the band at the time, and he invited someone else. The next thing I know, the whole band's praying, and now we don't do anything without praying. We just did the national anthem for the Raiders at the new Las Vegas Stadium. Before we walk out there, we pray. If I'm going to be recording here, start Monday. Before I start a recording session, we pray. We ask God to guide us and direct us, to help us to be diligent and creative, and guess what? It happens. So, I'm a drug addict, I'm clean, but I mean, when something works, I do a lot of it, everything,
good or bad, right?
It's working,
right.
So I do a lot of that.
It's so lovely to hear you guys talk about that, and I can see where it's a thread that continues to bond you together, and that prayer is so important, regardless of your practice, David, earlier you're talking about different styles of music that everybody brings, into the band with their backgrounds, musically, but it's the same spiritually too, but it's all connected. It's all the same.
Yeah, I remember when Dave first came back in the band after being out for 18 years. He had been in and out of the band twice. Now it was the 3rd time he was coming back. He'd been out 18 years, and we're clean and sober, and we're praying together as a band. And so we get together, we're in a circle on the side of the stage, and I say the prayer, and I look over at Dave, and he's getting all teary-eyed, and he comes over to me, and he can barely speak. He says, "I always believed it could be like this," and it's just grown and grown ever since. It really helps us, so we keep doing it.
Well, compared to what we used to do before gigs, I mean, which was madness. I mean, I think that we're alive because we pray. We have kind of it sort of it unifies us. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, we before we go out to play, to do anything, like Mimi says, we have a circle of prayer. I mean, it's just the coolest thing, and kind of chills everybody out. Everybody's into it. Crew is into it. Whoever is there joins us. People, other band, if they want to come and pray with us, it's just a good thing. That's the reason I'm alive. There you go.
And it sets the intention of everything that you guys do.
Yeah, I mean, we're not, the religious Bible thumping people. We're not doing that, but I think that's different than having a connection, with the Almighty. Prayer is like, in some of the darkest times of my life, that's the thing that has pulled me out. Is that that light that brings to your life.
You guys mentioned working with other artists as well, which you all have done, as session players, as writers. The horn section certainly is world renowned for playing with other artists. Additionally, including Otis Redding, Elton John, Santana, the Grateful Dead, John Lee Hooker, Aerosmith, Bonnie Raitt. The list goes on and on and on. And you've also you've all had a lot of ups and downs through life along the way, and you've also affected a lot of other people's lives. And I know you've done a lot of work that you're all really proud of. What have you guys learned along the way? Emilio, you kind of mentioned a little bit earlier in our conversation, working with other artists and then coming back to the band and realizing what a beautiful work ethic and well-oiled machine that you have, the level of integrity. But each of you, what kind of things have you learned from good and bad? I've certainly learned a lot of what not to do, oftentimes from working with other artists and seeing how they work in the studio and go, well, that's not the best way to get a performance out of somebody. It's always kind of remarkable. But what are some of the lessons that you guys learned from, and some of the, maybe a favorite story from working with other artists as well, particularly?
Can I start this, Terry?
Yeah, of course.
I think that one of the coolest things about Tower Power is that we don't tell each other what to do. We do not tell each other what to do. That is not how we operate. Mimi doesn't say anything to us. So, if somebody's screwing up, we're kind of like a self-policing unit. If somebody's doing something that's not right, we're going to, people speak up, but you're free to create your art in the way that you see it. You're free with the chair that you have to make it your own. And, there's some instruction in the beginning when, people are in Tower 101, kind of the way that we do things, the way we interpret notes, the swing that's in our music and all of that stuff. It takes a while for people to get it, and once they do and they're comfortable, that's it. They just can come to do their work and create their art the way that they want, and no one's going to say anything to them, otherwise, tell them what to do. I think that's one of the beautiful things about the way that we do what we do, is that. And it's actually one of the reasons that main reasons I've stayed for so long is because it's a free place. It's a small, I guess you could think of it, how do you get, somebody says, I've had a lot of people say to me, how many times have you played those songs? Don't you get tired of playing those songs? And the answer is no. I don't get tired of playing the song because the challenge is to make it alive and fresh when you do it all the time, which we do. And I think that's just the coolest thing, you know. So anyway.
And gratitude plays into that, doesn't it? It certainly does for me.
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm thankful I know these guys as people, and you know, it's just a good thing, you know, all the way around. You know, artistically, personally, everything.
What I want you the other guys to answer the question too, but David, while we're talking, what was that like? What was the conversation like when you left and then came back again? Is that awkward? Is it?
Well, I think it's 4 times, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's 4 times. You said 3, but
4?
I think it was 4. You know, for
are they difficult conversations?
It's difficult leaving.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it was difficult coming back and seeing that things hadn't changed, and that, you know, your brothers were still struggling with their addictions and demons and crazy stuff. You know, that was really tough for me. You know, it's like being in a relationship with somebody that, you know, it's toxic. It doesn't work out, you know, and you keep coming back because you love it. You love the relationship. And so, you know how it is when there's dope and alcohol involved in something, people, especially dope, they don't, if they liked each other in the beginning, they won't like each other when there's dope involved. And then after it's gone, that initial feeling that you had about each other, it returns. I mean, how the relationship that I have with Doc and Mimi that we all have together now, that's how it was at the very beginning. You know, we're just older now.
Right.
And you know, so, you know, in between, it was crazy, but now it's over. All that stuff is in our past, you know. We can just enjoy the path forward now and the moments we have. It's cool.
Emilio, you're smiling. You know,
He was saying it. I said, for what I meant was he left the band 3 times. And the 4th time he came in,
yeah,
we were sane.
Yeah.
The other 3 times that he left, we were insane. You know, and I could see it in his face every time he left. He couldn't take watching those that he loved kill themselves.
Right.
And even though I was in there and I didn't want to admit how bad I was and all that stuff, and I had a lot of denial, I knew that was the truth. And it was hard, you know. And even when he was gone, we would talk. He would call me, you know, we would talk because we know each other musically, you know. And I remember, you know, that last time he was out, it was 18 years. And it was Doc, actually, that told me, I think we should ask David Garibaldi to be in the band. I said, he's not going to come back in the band. He goes, no, I think he would, because Doc had used him on one of his solo records. And Jeff Tamalier said, I know he will. And I said, I'll call him, you know. And, you know, that was the beginning. It was like meeting for the first time. You know, the first time I met Dave, instantly it was like, yeah, this is what we're meant to be. This is how it's supposed to be. Like Rocco, for instance, my brother was a good lock drummer. He'd learn something, he'd nail it to the wall, but he didn't have all the technical ability Dave had. As soon as Dave came in, it was like Rocco was completely freed. All of a sudden, he was playing all this cool stuff with my brother. But then Dave comes in, and all of a sudden he's just like completely freed up. And it wasn't, you know, nobody had to say, hey, you could do this. It just like sweat, it comes out, you know. And you know, we all had that, but we're young, we're immature, and we had these demons, you know, and it was that time too. You know, let's not forget, we came up in the Bay Area.
Right.
Late 60s, early 70s. And, you know, late 60s, well, you know, it's like you drink a little, you smoke some pot. But 70s, cocaine came in, and then heroin. And, you know, it was pretty soon it was like, rather than let's get high and make music, rather than make music, you know, it became all about the drugs, you know. And I wound up leaving the Bay Area with a big desire to stop living the way I was living. But it's like, I wanted to stop living the way I was living, but sort of keep on doing it, you know. And then by 88, by God's grace, I learned how to stop, and I grabbed it and held on to it. And I was determined, this is how we're going to be. That's why I made life difficult for Doc. I helped a lot of my guys get sober, because that's how it's supposed to be in an organization like this.
Mm-hmm.
Alan Chanowski, who used to do our sound and engineer some of our recordings, call us the Tower of Pimps and Hustlers.
Doc, you want to weigh in?
What I learned along the way, I mean, you know, all this drugs and alcohol thing, you know, had to be, you know, we had to get clean, and we did. But the lesson I learned is that don't take it for granted that you get some success, and that doesn't mean the success will continue. You have to stay at it. And, you know, I think we made a drastic mistake leaving Warner Brothers and going to Columbia, although they gave us an offer we couldn't refuse. But it turned out that that didn't work out, and we took it for granted that it would. And just you got to keep at it to make it work. By the way, I have a story about what it's that I want to tell. And
Great.
That's back when I did, you know, one of my solo records. Mickey Thomas was on it, that singer, and so someone from the Georgia Hall of Fame approached me about being nominated because Mickey's from Georgia, and we were talking, and he said that Wayne Cochran told him that he inspired What Is Hip. And you know, I had completely forgot about it. I said, "Oh yeah, how's that?" And it turned out he was right, because
He was?
yeah, we played a gig with him,
Yeah.
and you know, as we were doing some cocaine together, I said, "That's very hip," and he said to me, "I don't want to be hip, because if you're hip, it becomes passé." He did
Wayne
do that.
said that to you. Wow.
And I had to remember, and that's like a key lyric in that song, which if
That's
it
great.
didn't become passé. So I had to give it to him. He definitely inspired that tune. I was kind of knocked out that he remembered, and it meant something to him.
What a great story. I grew up in Miami, so I was extremely aware of Wayne Cochran and the CC Riders. And of course, Lee Thornburg played with them too.
Oh yeah.
Who was one of your many great horn players. Yeah. And dear friend.
No, you asked us about playing with other people, though.
Yeah.
That was the question, right?
Yeah.
And so I wanted to talk about a couple of things. The most work we did with other bands, two bands,
Huey Lewis.
Little Feat and Huey Lewis in the News.
Got it.
So Little Feat, and mind you, we're in the height of our addiction while we're playing with them, but the music is fabulous, and it's a real scene. But shortly after that, Lowell George dies of an overdose, you know, and it was like, you know, this is what your future is going to be if you don't get it together. But, you know, I'd have that thought and then stuff it way down, you know. But then we go to Huey Lewis in the News, and we had a like-minded approach to music. They were big fans of Tower of Power. We really dug them. They were soulful, and it was good. But one of the things Huey taught me, which was really important for me, and it just never occurred to me. I mean, I treated it that way, but when he said it, after that, I made it a point. He said, you know, he was doing something, blah, blah, somebody said something, he goes, "It's a band. It's not Huey Lewis. It's a band," you know, and I never forgot that, you know. This ain't the Emilio show, you know, it's the Tower of Power, and it's a band. And that's a real important thing, because it's a completely different thing from like being Tom Jones or,
right.
You know, you're an artist. The artist here is the band. And my job as the band leader is to, you know, serve them and help them to bring to fruition what their ideas are, you know, and also to guide them along to what my original idea for the band was, you know, and together we do that. But it's a big lesson for me. It's a band.
Well, it's a really challenging balance to create, because it's a collaboration, but it's not a democracy. But as you mentioned, like, you all encourage input from each other. You know, everybody gets to speak freely if they have an idea, but somebody still needs to moderate, which is extremely important, because otherwise, you know, every ship needs a captain. It doesn't mean that the crew is not an integral part of everything that happens, but somebody's got to be the point of focus.
Yeah, but it is a democracy to
It is
a high degree. You know, I'll tell you, I remember we were looking for a guitar player, and there was this guitar player out of Vegas. I wanted him. Herman Matthew wanted him. But you know what? The other guys picked Jeff Tamalier, you know, and I was like, it's a band. The band is what rules.
That's great to hear.
That proved to be a huge decision, because he was phenomenal. He, along with the rest of the guys, took the rhythm section and the sound of Tower of Power to another place. It was very, very creative and very much Tower of Power. And it was the right choice. You know, I think that's the thing is with the spiritual life, is realizing that sometimes God's going to say, no, not your will. You know, it's the band's will. It's my will. And he kind of guides all that stuff.
I love hearing that you call it a democracy in the band, that it's still that you were able to make that work. But I think that's probably part of the magic of what makes it work as well. You know, everybody is really an important part of this really elegant and complex, but also very simple, you know, combination of just people, spirits. You know, with a common.
The bottom line is, you know, if the majority wants a certain thing, that's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
You know,
that sounds kind of healthy.
It's right.
Well, that sounds like that comes from age and wisdom as well, to look at it that way. Or did you always approach it that way?
We always approach it that way.
Yeah, it was always like that.
We all make the same amount of money. You know, I don't get no leader's fee or nothing. You know, and mind you, you know, guy comes in the band, he's making what David Garibaldi makes.
Automatically.
He's making what Doc makes. He's making what I make. Doesn't matter, we've been here 55 years. We're like old hippies.
Right.
You know? We split it all up. And, you know, and we've talked about this before. You know, it's like, well, maybe these OGs ought to get a little more, you know. And so I was like, you know what? This has been working for over 50 years. We're not going to mess with it.
Right. So far, so good.
I wouldn't feel right about that. You know, I like it the way that it is. You know, it's democratic in that, you know, everybody gets to have a voice. You know, Mimi's the final arbiter of all of that stuff, but you know, everybody gets to say what they feel and have input into the music the way that they see it. Some guys are more vocal than others, you know. One cool thing is the way that Mark, our new bass player, who, you know, who's now in the bass chair, has kind of made the music his own, you know, which is really, really fantastic. He's a great player, and he had to go through Tower 101, you know, all of that. But he's done really well, man. He's just playing beautifully. You know, you don't replace Rocco. Rocco's was an irreplaceable thing, you know, in every way, you know. But Mark is living up to the standard that set before him. You know, he's doing really, really well.
Yeah, it seems like every session I leave nowadays when we're doing the rhythm section, and also the producer I work with, Joe Vanelli, we walk out of there going, man, Mark VW, man,
yeah,
killing it.
Right.
We love it. What happened to Doc? He dropped out.
Yeah. Where'd you go, Doc? Maybe he had enough.
He's fumbling with the technology right now.
Right. Absolutely. I'd be remiss without mentioning Greg Adams, who was an original, you know, an OG in the band also, and helped create the sound of the horn section as a co-arranger and everything. And it just reminds me that there's so many amazing people who have, again, been in your band, you know, through the years. Well, actually, I already know the answer to this. I've seen, like, I saw you guys at the Hollywood Bowl one time, and you're calling out in the audience, guys who have played in the band, and, giving them their props. And it seems like you've done a pretty great job of maintaining friendships, or at least there's a continuing respect, that I see. Anybody I know who's ever been in your band speaks fondly of the experience. They're proud to have been a part of your team.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really proud of the fact I'm on good terms with every member that's ever been in the band. I'm not on bad terms with anyone. And Greg Adams, you mentioned Greg Adams. He and I, man, we would go at it. And I love him. And I remember the last time we played, or not the last time, I think the time before last, we played Hollywood Bowl, and I had this thought. I was in the shower in the morning, and I go, I had to ask Greg to come and play. We're doing 3 songs where he could be featured.
Right.
His hips, So Very Hard to Go, and I think Squib Cakes. And I got to the airport. The guys are there. I go, hey, is it okay if I invite Greg? And they were like, yeah. And he came. He had a great time. And yeah, I mean, and it's the same. Lenny Pickett. Every time we're in New York, he comes and plays with us. Richard Elliott, Steve Grove, Chester Thompson all the time. Jeff Tamalier. All these great players. We've had some wonderful players, and we're on good terms with all of them.
Yeah.
And they love to come play with us.
Yeah, Ellis Hall, on vocals too.
Love Ellis.
Me too. Me too.
And all
right, so I have a cool Ellis Hall story. We were playing in Canada, and Ellis was subbing for, I think it was LB, right, and Larry Braggs. And so this particular night, Mimi sort of ran the concert, almost like telling stories between the songs, and it was just the coolest thing. And so Ellis is singing, and it was like a movie watching him sing. He's got his Braille thing, so he's following along on his Braille thing. He's singing his heart out, and it was just like being in a movie. Like I was watching it as I was performing. It was so amazing. I think one of the most amazing nights that I've ever experienced with Tower of Power. There's been quite a few, but that one was pretty epic. Just the way that it all came together. Mimi telling the stories between the songs, how we, came up with it, the history behind the songs, and then performing them, Ellis with Braille and all that. I mean, come on. I mean, it was epic.
Yeah, I remember also I wanted to tell this story. You were talking about people coming in and filling other people's shoes. Well, we had this instance. We were on tour, and Larry Braggs had told us he was going to finish out the year, but he was getting these other offers and stuff. So we're in the middle of a tour, and he says, I can't be in Morristown. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're in the middle of the tour, But we had arranged for this guy, Ray Green, to come and audition at the sound check, right? And so I tell the guys, I go, I got a good feeling about this guy, Ray Green. How about I tell him to learn 6 more songs and he does the show? And they're like, yeah. Dave says, yeah, I got a good feeling too. So I call Ray Green. I go, I'm going to fix. I go, and I'll be honest with you. If you do what I'm asking you to do, it doesn't mean you're in the band. You still got to pass the audition, but it would be a big help, And he goes, sure, I'll help you out, And he's a really good learner, So I had never met him in person. I had seen him on YouTube. I'd never met him in person. And I'm coming down the elevator to the lobby. And when I come out, I see him, and I go, oh, hey, man. I go, Emilio Castillo. He goes, yeah. He's a good. So we're like saying hello. And his wife is with him. And as she walks up to the side of us, this guy walks by and he sees me talking to this guy. He goes, you're the guy that's going to fill Larry Bragg's place. You got some big shoes to fill. And all of a sudden, his wife goes, he's got some big feet. And let me tell you, he did. He came, he never played with us before, did the show from top to bottom.
Put his foot in it. Yeah.
And then we find out he plays trombone. And we've been missing the trombone, right?
Sure.
So we get on the bus and everybody's like, man, this Ray Green guy, man, was really cool, right? And Dave's going, and he plays trombone. He did that for like 2 months, Yeah, Ray Green, and he plays trombone. Yeah, he came She was really good.
Super person, super person, man. You know, he was like a trombone player first. And then he said when he was at Berkeley, he discovered that he used his singing so he could do gigs.
Right.
You know, so trombone and vocal, but he's mainly an instrumentalist. Super person, man. It's just
perfect.
Yeah. What a guy. Beautiful. And his wife too. He's beautiful people.
And yeah, she sure stands up for her man. That's pretty nice. The word collaboration has come up a few times in our conversation. Can you tell me your point of view about the art of collaboration?
Well, for me, it's all about give and take. And sometimes that's really hard. So it's like an acquired skill. You know, when I first started writing with Doc, you know, he'd have some quirky ideas, you know. And then I've had this trait of just, you know, go with the flow, make it happen. So I try to make these ideas he had happen. And guess what? You know, a lot of times it worked out really good, you know, so I learned. It's like, yeah, give it a try. Same thing with Rocco. You know, Rocco is not like, he doesn't speak out a lot about the music. And, you know, he's not a real technical musician, but sometimes he'd have these quirky ideas. And I had learned over the years, try it, you know, and we'd try it and it would work like 10. And then David would go, 2 production points for Rocco. But, you know, when you're collaborating, you know, you got to give plenty and you got to accept that the other person, everybody wants to get their stuff in there. It's the same in the band. Everybody wants to get their stuff in there, you know. So my job is to filter all that out and help them, you know, get it in there if possible. And if not, then I got to say, you know, it's not really working. And I do the same with Doc. We'll be writing, you know, I'll just, you know, he'll say something, I'll go, let's try it, you know, we'll try it. And I'll go, you know, it's not really doing, and we'll just go down another route, you know.
So a big part of it for you is being open-minded, open-hearted, and also and curious, but also really about communication. You know, respect and communication.
It's like in any relationship, give and take, you know. I mean, I remember I had this uncle. He became really spiritual later in life. When I first moved to Arizona, you know, we would have these great spiritual talks. And one day he says to me, he says, what is the greatest desire of every human being? And I go, to be loved. And he goes, no, to be right. And I went, obviously, it was like, focus on me, man, because I was like, man, that's so true of me and you and everybody, man. It's like, being right is really important to people, you know.
That's funny, because I would have thought
working relationships is realizing you ain't always right and you don't always have to be right, you know.
Yeah, you don't. But when you asked the question, I thought to be loved. That was my answer. But yeah, people love to be right. David, I know that you really enjoy collaborating with a lot of different musicians and artists. So what's your take on the art of collaboration?
Everything I know about that, I've learned in Tower of Power, because Tower of Power to me is the ultimate collaborative effort, because that's what makes our music go, is that it's just a collaboration of all these different personalities and ideas and all this stuff. I mean, I have a lot of crazy ideas that I come up with sometimes rhythmically, and so they don't always work, you know. So Mimi has always given me a lot of latitude to do whatever I want, but I know when he turns around and he gives me the no, you know, I know that I kind of, you know, overstepped my bounds a little bit, but that's the whole thing, is that it's a setting where everybody gets to try things,
right?
You know, and everybody gets to have a voice in what's going on. And I think that's what you know, any collaboration is everyone has a voice and everybody's voice is respected, you know. So to me, that's So one of the coolest things about what we do is that,
I want to ask my closing questions to you guys, and then, of course, open it up if there's anything that you want to add to the conversation. Feel free. And I'm going to ask Emilio first on each of these questions. And David, I'll ask you these questions that I've asked you a couple of years ago when I had you on my show, but perhaps the answer might be different for you now. So the first question of the three is, Emilio, since this show's called Making It, what does making it mean to you, both personally and professionally?
Well, to me, making it, I pray for success. I pray to God for success. I want success as a writer, as a record producer, as a band leader, as a singer, as a sax player, as a member of a horn section. I want success as a financial steward. I pray for success. And I always tell God, if it doesn't get any better than this, I'm overpaid. It's wise to pray for success, to ask God to make you successful in these various endeavors that we're in. But you always got to know that whatever he's got in store for you, that's more than enough. If it all ended right here, overpaid.
David?
I don't know, man. I'm still trying to define that. I just give my best effort at all the things that I do. And I know that effort is the rewards of effort are great, and I'm still learning about all of those things. I just give it my all, my family, my friendships, my work, everything that I do. And I know that if I do that the outcome is going to be great. So, I mean, success, I don't know, man. It's, I don't think of it, really like that,
And the beauty, I think, about giving your all is that you don't run out of all. When you really, truly give it your best always, it replenishes.
I don't want the story to be over. I want the story is still developing. We're still writing it.
Yeah.
We're still adding chapters to it, and I don't want to ever think that I've arrived in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, yeah.
That is not my personality.
Mm-hmm.
I want to keep going,
I share that with you. Absolutely. Emilio, can you share 3 tips for success that have driven your career?
Well, be diligent in your endeavors, no matter how you feel, show up, and be diligent. I think a spiritual life is integral to, making it, whatever making it is going to be for you,
Sure.
And a third tip, stay healthy.
Mm.
It's really important. The body is a temple of the Holy Spirit, and you're supposed to honor that body. And I go up and down with that, and I go up and down with giving it my all. I try to give it my all the time. And sometimes, guess what? I'm not giving it my all. And I call myself on it, and I try to do better because we're human.
Right, we're imperfect
100% all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as you're, and the other thing I've learned in recovery that's really important is, others, not self. Others, put your focus on others, serve others, help others, be there for others. It gets you out of your head, because my main thing is Emilio and his life and all that stuff. And it's like, what? Anything that gets me away from thinking like that, that's a smart thing. And being of service does that.
Mm-hmm. David, tips for success?
Well, I think, you have to be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't be anyone else. And, I think that you have to, kind of create the life that you want for yourself. You have to create a path, that you want to follow, and kind of, there's that Mark Twain quote, don't let school get in the way of your education. I just love that. To me, that really lights up my brain. And it kind of the story of kind of my life and kind of what we've done, as a group, that kind of thing. And also personally, I want to own my life. I want to own the things that I do. I don't blame people for stuff. I'm not a blamer. I want to own me, own my path, take responsibility for everything. It's growth. It just takes time to get to the place where you realize that, you got to be responsible for yourself, in every way. The things that you say, loving people is really important, respecting people. I mean, the bridges that you burn now, you're going to have to cross later on. So you might as well, not do that, create, a friend of mine, says that, he wants to be the kind of person that when people see him coming, they smile. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah. I like that. I haven't ever heard anybody say that before.
He's the only person I ever say that, but he's that kind of guy.
Kind of cool.
When I think of him, I smile.
There you go.
That kind of a person.
My final question before I turn it over for your closing thoughts is, at this point of your life, Emilio, with everything that you know to be true, and with everything that you've learned through this remarkable and courageous life that you've been living, what would you tell your younger self?
What would I tell my younger self? Be respectful of others and yourself. And just remember that, there is a God and you're not him. And try to behave accordingly.
Right.
And you know what? That ain't going to happen in a young person.
No.
You need to make mistakes in order to realize they were mistakes. That's how you learn, but still, as you go, those truths, they don't change. God is there and you're not him, and be respectful of other people and be respectful of yourself.
Beautiful words. A lot of truth to what you say. Dave?
Well, I don't know, man. I always kind of look at my life. I don't really look backward. I kind of don't do that. I've done a lot of crazy stuff. Like I tell my son, enjoy yourself, but don't do stupid shit, because I've done all of it. And, I don't know, man. I that's a tough one. I never even think about that.
Yeah. I don't know either, but it's interesting because your son is young.
Yeah.
So 17. So
yeah, 17. He's quite a guy,
I would imagine. Look who his parents are.
His mama. Oh man. She's something. She's getting it from both sides.
Absolutely. Any closing thoughts with either of you? Anything you want people to know about the band? By the way, towerpower.com. Go to Spotify, subscribe, go check out the new album and new singles that are coming out. And you guys are in every city coming up. So go check the band out live. If you haven't seen the band live, you'll thank me and the guys when you do. And if you have seen them, you know why I'm telling you, go see them again. I look forward to seeing you guys in Southern California again. I'm gonna watch out for your schedule or come see you someplace. Again, any closing thoughts from either of you?
Well,
yeah, I'll say that.
Go ahead, Dave.
Well, I was just going to say, for people to just take care of each other.
Yeah.
There's so much crazy stuff that's going on these days between people. Just take care of each other. Enjoy your friends, love them, encourage them, be your best. Enjoy it.
Emilio?
Well, I'll say, what I would say to others is be careful during our times, the media is very, very effective, and in not so many great ways. It's really great in some ways, but in a lot of negative ways. And so I distance myself from social media, and I always know what's going on. It's not as though, I'm wondering, oh, did you hear this? I don't watch the news, and I love the news. I don't watch it because, it depends on who you're watching, where the spin is.
Right.
They're spinning right, they're spinning left. And yet I always know what's in the news because everybody talks about it. So it's not as though I'm not in the know, but I just think, people need to be wary of how the media can affect your life. It's so overwhelming now compared to where we were. Human beings are supposed to interact with each other, not on the screen, and this is a great thing. I mean, we're able to do this and it's great, but I think you got to be wary and be careful, And the other thing is just, to fans of Tower of Power everywhere, people say, how long are you going to do this? And I tell them, there's no retirement in the Bible. My role model was B.B. King.
Yeah.
I mean, he went until he couldn't go no more. And I'd like to do the same. But I know at some point it's going to end, and then I'll do something else. I may write, I may produce. I don't know what I'll do, but I'll continue doing music, and I'll continue doing this style of music because this is the gift that God gave me. So hopefully, and something I learned from Dave, I mean, the goal here is to do it in a healthy way as long as possible. And that means at our age, we need to take care of ourselves. How we do our schedule, what the logistics are like, what the hotels are like. Every little factor of getting this band on the road, we need to sort of alter it because of our age. So that we can go longer. That's the goal. Go as long as we can.
Once you're in, you ain't getting out. It's like the Mafia or the Grateful Dead.
Or the Roach Motel. It's a great problem to have being in Tower Power, and because you've really enlightened me to the basically the essence of the band. I know you musically, and I know you guys individually, but to really hear you talk about what makes it work for you, I just appreciate so much because it makes sense, and it's pretty simple. It's just about kindness and integrity and the passion that you share, for making great music, and doing it with love and respect for each other, and love and respect for yourselves, which is a newer part of some of your lives, a deeper love and respect for yourselves. And that's, I'm just so, it fills me with joy to hear you guys talk about that, your recovery and your continued standing by each other through everything, through life.
When I see Mimi and Doc, I just always love it, just seeing them, knowing them, how they were, what they are now, and the kind of people that they are. And, it's just cool,
Yeah, it is.
Like I tell my son, the most important story that you tell is the story you tell yourself about yourself.
You're a good dad. I would have liked hearing those words coming up too. It's good. That's beautiful. Guys, it's been such a joy to see you. I want to, Emilio,
Pleasure, Terry.
David, and also Doc, continue healing from your surgery. And I just love you guys and have so much respect for you. And it's really, thanks again for playing on my first record back in the 80s. And thanks for continuing to inspire me as a musician and as a person. Yeah, I just deep respect for the band and wishing you continued success. The new album's fantastic because it's live, and you do both so well. It's really one of the cool things about the band. You really know how to record. You're all great producers too, but you also and great studio musicians. But man, when you play live, you just bring it. You bring it, and you know how to capture that in a recording as well. So continued success. I wish you continued success and joy. Thank you for all the joy you brought me and so many people throughout our connective lives. You know, I just appreciate you guys so much. So take good care. And
All right, Terry.
hope to see you soon. And thanks again.
All right,
Thanks,
brother.
Terry.
Thank you.
Power.
Tune in again next week for another great episode of Making It with Terry Wollman.